With Christmas fast approaching, we at Solid Solutions thought it was time to get a little more festive with our inspiration. Today, we'll be looking into how you can create a holly branch using SOLIDWORKS. We will be focusing on various tools that can be used for organic structures, like this one. So, let's get right into it. First, I'm going to start making a new part and create a sketch on the top plane. Now, because we're modelling this organically, this will be the only dimension we'll use in the leaf, and it will act as a sort of reference for the rest of the model. We're going to add some splines here, and the shape of them will roughly resemble the outline of a laurel leaf. And as you can see, I've added some vertical relations to the spline handles to improve the outline. Next, we're going to offset the shape, ticking for the base geometry to become construction. And we're going to trim off the tip of the leaf. Then we're going to make use of the planar surface command to fill in the outline we've created, and notice how I've got a custom tab at the top to store the commands that I'll be using for today. Next, we're going to access the freeform feature and add several curved lines, making sure that they follow the flow of the leaf. You'll notice how I'm adding 3 points to the center of that leaf, which we'll be using as references for the vein, and I'm also making the 2 edges movable to improve the realism, and then we'll be adding points along the line there. Once all of the points have been placed, we can select them and move them with a triad to create the curves of the leaf. So we can click onto the point and click and drag onto one of the arrows, symbolizing which axis is going to pull that point along, and we can adjust the geometry of that surface as shown. Once we're happy with what we've got, we can thicken it to turn it into a piece of solid geometry. And we can go and tick that there. Now that we have a solid body, we need to begin shaping the outside edge. So I'm going to start by trimming it down to size by opening a sketch on the top plane and making use of that first sketch we created using convert entities. Now that we have that sketch, we can do an extruded cut through all, making sure to flip side to cuts. With this basic shape, we can start pulling it to create the spikes of the holly leaf, but to do that we need to make some reference points. So with a sketch on the right plane, we can add 4 lines that intersect the model, and we can reposition them as we see fit. And then making use of the split line feature, we can project these lines onto the 2 edge faces of the model. Adding some more shape to the model, and we can use the deform tool for this to curl the end or the tip of the leaf. And what we can do is specify that vertical line on the end there as the direction of which we want it to pull. And then we can modify the parameters to improve the accuracy or improve the end desired result. And then we can follow a similar procedure by selecting the new reference points we created with the split line tool, and we can pull them out either by selecting a point or by selecting a line and changing the parameters to suit the desired result. As we model, we can continue to apply the deform feature to the reference points and lines we created in that split line feature. And by varying the parameters and by varying the selection, we can alter the direction in which the part is being pulled, and that will create a little bit more of an organic feel to the model. Again, we're going to need to trim the shape of the leaf. So with a new sketch on the top plane, we can convert the entities of that first sketch and add additional points and arcs to the edges to achieve the desired results. And as you can see, I'm making use of the reference points from the split line feature, and we can reposition the arcs where we see fit. Once we're happy with that, we can use the trim feature to create an enclosed shape before doing an extruded cut through all, making sure again to flip side to cuts. Now that I'm happy with what I've got this far, I'm going to roll the freeze bar down to improve performance, and then create a surface offset on the underside of the leaf of 0 mm, hide out the body, and then we can begin creating the vein on the back. To do this, we're going to use a sketch on the top plane, and we're going to create a spline, which we can then offset with capped end selected, and adjust the position to match the location of the veins. And finally, once we're happy with that, we can split line that onto the surface, delete the rest of the surface, and we can thicken it to make a body. Then, opening up the deform tool once more, we can select surface push, and define it with the top plane as the direction, the deformation region as the face of the leaf underside, the deformation body as the leaf body, and for the tool I'll select specified body and click the new thickened body created for the vein. Once we're happy, we can press OK, and then we can hide out that body, and we can see the effects of that deformation. So as you can see, that tool adds emphasis to the vein on the underside of the body there. Well, this does, however, affect performance, and we can see from the performance evaluation how this feature currently takes up 66% of the rebuild time. Returning back to the model now, I'm going to apply a flex feature to the model, and I'm going to be selecting bending as the flex type, and I'm going to be adding 60 degrees to emphasize the points or the spikes on the holly. And once we're happy with that, I can OK that. I've now added a stem in the model, which will make adding it into the assembly easier. Now this can be done through various different methods. I can now see though that both the body and the stem are separate bodies, so I'm going to combine them to make one piece of geometry. Next we can look at modifying the appearance. So we can click onto appearance and change the basic colour from which we're going to base everything off, modify the surface finish, and then we can look into modifying the illumination by toning everything down to reduce the reflection from the model. And once we're happy with all of that, we can come out of that and take it into the assembly. Feature style. Here's an assembly I made earlier. Just going to quickly insert the leaf into it, and we can begin mating it up to the planes of the assembly. And by doing this, we're going to be fixing the leaf into place, which means as we apply further mates down the line, it's not going to move, which means the position should be set. And we're going to apply a distance there to make sure that it's the right height for the desired result. Next, we're going to use a linear pattern. And selecting the axis, we can rotate the instances with 3 leaves patterned and a distance of 15 millimeters between them, and that will give this effective result. Now finally, I want to add one more berry on top. So using copy with mates and making use of a 3D sketch with points within the assembly, we can quickly make a copy of that part. And as you can see, we can quickly just replicate one of the mates and save a little bit of time for ourselves. Well, thanks for sticking with me, and we can see the final product now.